3,000 years of peace had changed the galaxy. The endless, brutal wars that had once raged across its star systems, consuming planets and civilizations alike, were now distant memories, preserved only in ancient records and fading stories. The Great Conflict, known to all simply as the Endless War, had forged an uneasy truce, binding the galaxy's diverse races in a rare, shared commitment to peace. For the most part, they all observed it faithfully. Old grudges and rivalries were buried, or at least set aside, in recognition of the fragile equilibrium that kept the galaxy from tearing itself apart. But humanity was a latecomer to the stars. When humans had first arrived, they were a curiosity, a strange, determined species, small in number but bold. They had not witnessed the endless war firsthand. To them, it was a distant myth, a cautionary tale told by the elder races who had once fought in it. Yet humanity had adapted quickly, growing out of their infancy as an interstellar species. They colonized new worlds with astonishing speed, their technology and knowledge expanding rapidly. They became builders, scientists, and traders, forging alliances, weaving themselves into the fabric of the galaxy. They were, for the most part, respected, if not yet fully trusted. To the powerful alien race known as the Vril, this human growth was alarming. The Vril had long held dominance over vast regions of the galaxy, a legacy of their ancient might and knowledge. They had been among the first to make peace, having known the cost of war better than any other. For 3,000 years, they had honored the truce, watching humanity rise from its fledgling years with suspicion and growing disdain. Humanity was different, reckless, unbound by the ancient traditions that the elder races respected. Humans moved quickly, made deals without hesitation, dared to innovate even when others warned them not to. They were uncomfortably ambitious. And so, among the Vril's ruling council, whispers turned to talk, and talk became a decision. Humanity was growing too quickly, changing too many things, disrespecting traditions that the Vril had guarded for eons. Their leaders saw humanity's ambition as arrogance, their success as a threat. They saw it as their duty to teach this young species respect, to put them back in their place before they became truly dangerous. After all, to the Vril, humans were little more than children playing with fire. They lacked the centuries of wisdom, the perspective that only time could bring. The Vril were certain of their superiority, certain that they alone understood what was best for the galaxy. It was with this confidence, this conviction in their own righteousness, that the Vril broke the 3,000-year peace. They did so with a formal announcement, delivered in solemn, ancient language, the weight of millennia in every word. The message was simple. Humanity had overstepped, and for their arrogance, they would face the consequences. War was declared. The Vril expected fear, panic, a scramble for diplomacy, perhaps a desperate plea for forgiveness. They anticipated submission, a humbling of this brash species that had dared to challenge the ancient order. The galaxy held its breath. The other races were stunned. Some were fearful, others intrigued. The Vril were known to be powerful beyond measure, a race that had perfected war long before the peace was established. To challenge them was unthinkable. Many believed humanity would be crushed swiftly and efficiently, their brief history as a spacefaring race coming to an abrupt, tragic end. Rumors spread quickly, some hoping for mercy, others expecting a spectacle of obliteration. The other races waited, wondering how humanity would respond, speculating on the ways in which they might beg, bargain, or fight a hopeless battle. And then, to the Vril's utter astonishment, humanity laughed. Not just a dismissive chuckle, not a nervous release, but real full laughter. The leaders of Earth, the representatives of humanity's scattered colonies, they met the news of war not with dread, but with amusement. They laughed at the Vril's declaration, and the sound of it rippled through the galaxy like a shockwave. In that laughter was confidence, even defiance, a message that was impossible to misunderstand. They were not afraid. The Vril were confounded, shaken by this response that they had never anticipated. It was as if humanity had been waiting, as if this declaration of war was nothing more than the punchline to a joke only they understood. That laughter lingered, spreading confusion among the alien observers, casting doubt among the Vril's own people. It was an audacious reaction, one that defied every expectation, every rule of decorum the elder races held dear. And yet, the humans did not waver. The other galactic nations looked on, their curiosity piqued. How could humanity, young, reckless humanity, face such overwhelming odds and laugh in the face of it? Some saw it as arrogance, others as foolishness, but a few saw it as something else: strength. Humanity's readiness was not born overnight. For centuries, even during times of peace, humanity had learned to prepare. They had watched, observed, and built. Their fleets, once rudimentary, had become formidable and state-of-the-art, a vast network of ships designed for defense, exploration, and combat. Massive dreadnoughts, fast attack ships, agile fighters, and enormous carriers formed the backbone of their navy, each fitted with weapon systems that rivaled the best the galaxy had to offer. These ships were equipped with railguns, plasma cannons, high-energy laser turrets, and advanced missile arrays. Humanity's fleets didn't merely project strength. They demonstrated a careful, calculated readiness. This military might wasn't just the result of raw technological progress. Humanity had learned early on to adapt, to take the knowledge and inventions of others and integrate them with their own. They had reverse-engineered alien technologies, merging them with human ingenuity to create a blend of systems that was both highly advanced and deeply unique. Shields based on ancient alien designs, propulsion systems inspired by the faster-than-light technology of a distant civilization, and AI-driven systems that only humans could have imagined. Each element came together in a symphony of innovation and practicality. The result was a fleet that wasn't just powerful, it was versatile, able to outmaneuver, outthink, and outlast an opponent. For years, humanity had also been monitoring the Vril. It was no secret that the ancient race harbored disdain for them, and though the galaxy was at peace, humans were no strangers to suspicion. They had kept a close eye on the Vril, mapping their territory with stealth drones, probing their communication channels, and studying their military patterns. Humanity's intelligence network, an intricate web of reconnaissance ships and high-powered AI, had already sketched out the Vril Empire in extraordinary detail. Their scouts had observed the Vril's ship formations, analyzed their battle drills, and uncovered weak points in their defenses. Thanks to this foresight, humanity held a tactical advantage. The Vril might have believed themselves to be an unstoppable force, but humanity knew better. They had identified the Vril's reliance on overwhelming force, their focus on blunt, direct strategies. Humanity's leaders realized that the Vril's strength was also their weakness. It was a lack of flexibility, a commitment to rigid protocols that humanity could exploit. Their fleet was prepared to meet this threat with a blend of precision strikes, hit-and-run tactics, and psychological maneuvers that could disrupt and disorient the ancient empire's forces. This adaptability was no accident. It was something humanity had trained for extensively. Their military forces were drilled not just in conventional warfare, but in flexibility and endurance. Every soldier, every officer, every crew member understood that survival required resilience, that conflict demanded creativity. Their training covered every known alien combat style, preparing them for the unique conditions of each environment and species. They could fight in the gravity-free void, in the thick atmospheres of gas giants, in the crushing depths of icy worlds, or even in the oxygen-scarce air of desolate moons. Humanity's warriors were prepared to face any foe, anywhere. And then there was the psychological aspect of their strategy. Humanity understood that the Vril's perception of them as reckless, inferior newcomers could be a weapon. They had developed strategies to use this against the Vril, to exploit the alien race's assumptions and biases. Messages and decoy signals would be broadcast in ways that would fuel the Vril's contempt, only for them to realize, too late, that they had been led into a trap. Misdirection, distraction, and feints would draw the Vril's forces into vulnerable positions, leaving them exposed to humanity's counterattacks. Humanity had studied the Vril, not just their tactics, but their minds. They would use this knowledge to instill fear, to make the Vril question everything they thought they knew. Humanity wasn't alone in its preparations. Over the years, they had built alliances with smaller, less powerful alien races, those who admired humanity's spirit, who had seen them as a beacon of hope and progress. These allies were not mighty in number, nor were their resources vast, but their support added depth to humanity's readiness. They provided unique insights, shared rare resources, and offered vital support systems. This coalition of allies might have seemed unlikely, but it was strong, built on mutual respect and shared ideals. These alliances were not imposed. They were invited, each partner choosing to stand with humanity not out of fear, but out of genuine belief in their cause. As humanity mobilized, the rest of the galaxy looked on in awe. They had known that humans were a tenacious species, but the sheer scale and efficiency of their preparations surprised even the most seasoned observers. Some alien races, seeing humanity's resolve, began to reconsider their own stance on the conflict. The Vril had claimed that humanity was a threat, but what they saw was a species defending itself with unwavering determination and strategic brilliance. For some, this spectacle inspired admiration. For others, it sparked something deeper, a call to join humanity in its stand, to resist the tyranny of the Vril. In the quiet moments before the first battle, humanity was not alone. Across countless worlds, among allies and distant observers, a silent understanding spread. Humanity was prepared. They would not be intimidated, nor would they fight alone. The galaxy held its breath, knowing that when the time came, humanity would be ready to answer the challenge. The alien fleet cut through the darkness of human space, their ships an endless wall of metal and energy, pulsing with the deadly light of weapons primed and ready. Their ships were massive, imposing, designed for brute force and overwhelming power. The Vril commanders watched their screens with calm certainty. This was to be a swift strike, a reminder to humanity of its place. They expected resistance, of course, but nothing more than a feeble display that would quickly be crushed under the might of their armada. As the Vril advanced, human space appeared calm, deceptively quiet. There were no visible defenses, no formations of ships lined up to meet the invaders. The Vril were unimpressed. They assumed humanity must be scrambling, their defenses overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the Vril's incursion. But as they pressed deeper, the silence began to feel wrong. Then in an instant, the ambush was triggered. The darkness around the Vril fleet suddenly burst to life. Hidden human vessels emerged from the shadows, small, agile, and perfectly placed to attack with precision. Humanity's ships weren't built to overpower, but to outmaneuver, to strike hard and vanish before the enemy could react. With meticulous coordination, they closed in on the Vril from every direction, striking from blind spots the Vril hadn't thought possible. These weren't random attacks, but carefully planned ambushes. Humanity had mapped the battlefield down to the smallest detail, and they knew exactly where to strike. The Vril fleet, designed for overwhelming strength, was caught off guard by humanity's tactics. Their heavy warships, slow and powerful, struggled to counter the humans' relentless assault. They fired back, their weapons unleashing bolts of energy and projectiles that could tear through planets. But each time, humanity's ships slipped away, using evasive maneuvers and the cover of nearby asteroids to dodge attacks. The Vril were accustomed to brute force engagements, but humanity's forces moved like shadows, each strike hitting with surgical precision and then disappearing just as quickly. As the battle continued, the Vril commanders grew increasingly frustrated. Humanity's tactics defied all logic according to the ancient principles of warfare the Vril had always followed. Humanity didn't face them head-on. They scattered, divided, and struck in rapid, unpredictable waves. They used hit-and-run tactics, splitting the Vril fleet apart, making it impossible for the larger ships to regroup or support each other. Their smaller ships darted between the Vril behemoths, targeting weak points with pinpoint accuracy, damaging engines, weapon systems, and shields. To the Vril, it seemed as if they were fighting an enemy that could appear anywhere, attacking from angles they had never considered. Humanity's guerrilla-style combat in space was baffling, chaotic, and devastatingly effective. Every time the Vril adjusted, humanity was already several steps ahead. Their ships used decoys, deploying drones, and electromagnetic jammers to confuse the Vril's targeting systems. Even the most advanced Vril sensors couldn't track the humans accurately. Each human ship seemed like 10, slipping in and out of sight, turning the battle into a storm of unpredictable assaults that kept the Vril on the defensive. The Vril commanders began to realize the full extent of humanity's foresight. This wasn't a desperate defense. It was a calculated assault, a trap that humanity had set long before the Vril arrived. Humanity's strategic depth became clear. They had anticipated every move the Vril would make, leveraging the Vril's overconfidence against them. They used their own assumptions as weapons, manipulating the Vril's predictability and exploiting their lack of flexibility. Humanity had prepared for this moment, and they knew exactly how to unravel the Vril's superior numbers and firepower. As the Vril's losses mounted, their fleet began to falter. Entire ships, massive carriers and destroyers that had once been the pride of their empire, were torn apart by human forces that seemed to anticipate their every move. The Vril were accustomed to victory, to domination through sheer force, but here they found themselves humiliated, outmaneuvered at every turn. The humans were relentless, and yet their attacks were precise, minimizing collateral damage and casualties while maximizing the impact on the Vril fleet. When the smoke cleared, the Vril fleet was in ruins. Ship after ship had been disabled or destroyed, with only a fraction managing to flee back to the borders of Vril territory. Humanity's forces, though outnumbered, had emerged from the battle with minimal losses, their fleet nearly intact and morale unshaken. The Vril had expected a quick and easy victory, but what they encountered was an opponent that had outthought, outplanned, and outfought them at every turn. As the remnants of the Vril fleet retreated, humanity broadcast a message across the galaxy, a simple, calm statement that would echo in every corner of known space. In measured tones, humanity declared that they had defended their territory and were ready to do so again, that they were not intimidated by the Vril's power. Their message wasn't boastful or aggressive. It was a clear, confident statement of intent. Humanity would protect itself and its allies. They were prepared to fight and to win. The effect of this message was profound. For the Vril, it was a devastating blow to their pride and their reputation. They had expected humanity to cower in fear. Instead, they were met with a calm, unyielding resolve. The Vril's confidence was shaken, their belief in their own invincibility shattered. For the rest of the galaxy, humanity's response was a revelation. The young species they had once dismissed as brash and naive had proven themselves to be something far more formidable. In that single battle, humanity had shown not just its strength, but its wisdom and patience, its willingness to defend its own without hesitation or fear. The Vril were humiliated. Their defeat in the initial battle had been unthinkable, an affront to their pride and their ancient sense of superiority. But humiliation quickly gave way to fury. They regrouped, calling forth reserves and marshaling the full might of their empire. Thousands of ships, battlecruisers, dreadnoughts, and carriers were assembled into one massive fleet. Every weapon, every resource was brought to bear as they prepared to launch a counterattack against humanity. This would not be a tactical strike. It would be a show of brute force, designed to overwhelm and annihilate. The Vril came in a storm of energy and steel, flooding human space with a fleet that seemed to blot out the stars. Their ships burned brightly in the darkness, powered by technologies as ancient as they were devastating. They launched wave after wave of attacks, moving with a relentless ferocity that spoke of desperation as much as rage. But humanity was ready. They had expected retaliation and had prepared accordingly, their forces waiting, adapting, and evolving with every moment. Humanity's forces immediately dispersed, using smaller, more agile ships to avoid direct confrontations and exploit gaps in the Vril's formation. They were up against an empire that had always relied on raw power and rigid tactics. The Vril ships were enormous, designed for a single purpose: overwhelming force. But these behemoths moved slowly, their targeting systems tuned for large targets. Humanity's fleets darted around them like swarms of wasps, striking at their vulnerable points with unerring precision. Each human ship, though smaller, carried specialized weaponry capable of damaging or disabling systems the Vril had never thought could be vulnerable. But it wasn't just the physical battlefield where humanity showed its strength. They waged a war of the mind, using psychological tactics that the Vril were ill-prepared to counter. Human forces transmitted misleading signals, using false coordinates and decoy communications that led the Vril fleet into empty voids or ambushes. In one sector, the Vril chased what they believed was a large human fleet, only to find it was a decoy projection, an illusion created by cleverly placed drones and interference beacons. In another, human ships broadcast false distress signals from coordinates that, when approached, revealed hidden minefields waiting to ensnare the Vril's heaviest ships. As the battle dragged on, humanity's adaptability and creativity became increasingly apparent. Their tactics weren't fixed. They evolved in real time, adjusting to every move the Vril made. Human commanders coordinated across light years, sharing intelligence and adapting strategies almost instantaneously. Their AI systems, designed for rapid analysis, worked alongside human strategists to anticipate and counter every Vril maneuver. When the Vril tried to tighten their formations, humanity responded with precision strikes that forced them back into disarray. When they attempted to regroup, human forces scattered, leading them into another series of ambushes and traps. The Vril began to falter. For all their might, they were unused to this kind of war. Humanity was unlike any enemy they had faced, unpredictable, flexible, and fearless. And the galaxy was watching. News of humanity's resistance spread quickly, reaching distant star systems and planets that had long been under the shadow of the Vril Empire. For generations, the Vril had ruled through fear and dominance, subjugating smaller races who had no choice but to comply. But now, for the first time, the galaxy saw a species standing up to them, pushing back against the seemingly unstoppable tide. Inspired by humanity's resilience, some neutral alien species began to reconsider their neutrality. Small factions, even entire governments, reached out with offers of aid, supplies, resources, intelligence. They couldn't field armies like humanity's, but they provided valuable assistance, adding new layers to humanity's already diverse approach. Others offered diplomatic support, spreading messages across the galaxy that encouraged resistance against the Vril. Humanity's bravery had ignited a spark, one that was beginning to turn the tide of galactic opinion. Their resilience, their refusal to bow to the Vril's might, inspired hope in the oppressed and uncertainty in the Vril's allies. As the battle raged on, it became clear that this wasn't a fight between two equal forces. The Vril, though powerful, were struggling to adapt to humanity's unconventional methods. Humanity, on the other hand, was learning from each skirmish, growing stronger, more coordinated, and more resilient with every encounter. They used the Vril's desperation against them, allowing the alien forces to overcommit before counterattacking with devastating efficiency. Humanity's forces suffered losses, yes, brave ships and crews who faced the Vril head-on, knowing the risks. But each sacrifice was measured, each move calculated to ensure that the Vril's losses were exponentially greater. Finally, the battle began to shift in humanity's favor. One by one, Vril ships were disabled or destroyed, their once indomitable fleets slowly eroding under the relentless assault. Humanity had taken the worst the Vril had to offer, had absorbed their fury and retaliation, and still stood strong. The Vril, for all their might, were running out of options. Their rigid tactics had failed to break humanity, and now they were the ones fighting a losing battle, facing an enemy who refused to yield. The climax came as humanity launched a counterattack of their own, a final push that shattered the Vril's formation. They drove deep into the heart of the Vril fleet, striking with a coordinated assault that left no room for escape. The once mighty Vril ships, symbols of an empire's arrogance and might, were scattered, fleeing back to the safety of their borders, broken and humiliated. Humanity's forces remained, bloodied but unbowed, a testament to their resilience, adaptability, and unyielding spirit. In the aftermath, humanity sent a final message, broadcasting across the galaxy. They didn't boast of victory or taunt the defeated Vril. Instead, they spoke with quiet confidence, reaffirming their commitment to defend their people and their allies. They had withstood the Vril's full retaliation, proving that no force, no matter how ancient or powerful, could intimidate them. This message struck fear into the heart of the Vril Empire, who had never before encountered a species so resilient, so unwilling to bow. But among the rest of the galaxy, it inspired awe and admiration. Humanity had done the impossible. They had faced down an empire and emerged stronger, and in doing so, they had shown the galaxy a new path, one of unity, courage, and the determination to stand up for freedom, no matter the cost. Humanity's fleet cut through the depths of Vril space, every move deliberate, precise. This was not a raid or an ambush. It was the final, decisive strike aimed at the very heart of the Vril Empire. Humanity had learned well from each skirmish, adapting their tactics and strategies to perfection. The Vril's rigid formations and overwhelming force had failed them time and time again, and now, humanity was prepared to bring the conflict to a close. The human commanders coordinated flawlessly, using everything they had learned to turn the Vril's defenses against them, exploiting every weakness, pressing forward with relentless momentum. The Vril fleet met them with the last of their might, but their desperation showed. Where once their ships had moved with arrogance, now they scrambled, desperate to repel the human onslaught. But humanity was prepared, their ships dancing around the lumbering Vril vessels, slipping past defenses, striking with accuracy honed over countless battles. The Vril's ancient power was no match for humanity's relentless adaptability. What had once been a seemingly unstoppable force now found itself helpless, outmaneuvered at every turn. The battle raged on, but it was clear the Vril could not hold. Humanity pressed forward, deeper into their territory, showing no signs of faltering. The Vril, for all their pride, had reached the end of their strength. As humanity's fleet bore down on their capital world, the truth became undeniable. They could not win. The Vril had lost. They had been outthought, outfought, and outlasted. Realizing the futility of further resistance, the Vril leaders made the fateful decision to surrender. It was an act that sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The once dominant Vril Empire, rulers of countless worlds, bowed to the will of a young species they had once dismissed as primitive. They knew that humanity had the power to end them, to destroy their empire entirely. And they waited, in dread, for humanity's response. But humanity did not seek vengeance. As the Vril surrendered, humanity held back its final blow. Instead of delivering the annihilation that they could easily justify, humanity chose mercy. They accepted the Vril's surrender, but on terms that emphasized peace and rebuilding. Humanity made it clear. They would not destroy the Vril, nor would they demand submission or tribute. Instead, They offered a path forward that was built on mutual respect and the promise of peace. The galaxy watched in astonishment. Humanity had defeated one of the oldest and most powerful empires, yet they chose to show compassion and honor. This was a level of maturity and wisdom that many species had never seen, especially from a race as young as humanity. With one decisive choice, humanity transformed the perception of their kind across the galaxy. They were not conquerors, but protectors, defenders of peace and respect. In the wake of the Vril's surrender, humanity broadcast a message across the stars. It wasn't a message of domination or triumph. It was one of unity. Humanity's leaders spoke of the values they held dear: peace, cooperation, and respect for all life. They declared that no species should live in fear or oppression, and that every race had a place in the galaxy. This wasn't a demand. It was an invitation. Humanity had proven its strength, but now it offered a hand in friendship, a commitment to building a future where all species could thrive together. The message resonated deeply. Many races, some of whom had lived in fear of the Vril or other empires, saw humanity's offer as a beacon of hope. They recognized the strength and resilience humanity had shown, but they were equally moved by their compassion and restraint. For the first time, many alien species saw humanity not as an outsider, but as a leader, a force that valued justice, peace, and cooperation above all else. In the months and years that followed, new alliances formed. Species that had once been isolated or subjugated began to join humanity in their vision for the galaxy. Together, they established councils and coalitions, groups dedicated to ensuring that no empire could ever again dominate through fear and oppression. Humanity's example inspired countless races to stand together, to support one another, and to pursue peace as a collective goal. Even former enemies of humanity came forward, drawn by the strength and integrity they had shown. There was no longer any question of humanity's place in the galaxy. They had proven themselves not only as warriors, but as wise and honorable leaders. The galaxy watched and listened as humanity helped to build a new era, one where respect and cooperation outweighed the old ways of dominance and control. The legacy of the war was profound. Humanity was no longer just a rising species among many. They had become a symbol of resilience and unity, a species that had defended its people and allies not just with strength, but with honor. The sacrifices and victories they had achieved became stories told across countless worlds, their spirit and values an inspiration for generations to come. And while humanity knew the scars of war would take time to heal, they remained steadfast in their commitment to peace. They continued to grow, to learn, and to reach out to their neighbors, fostering bonds that transcended borders and backgrounds. In the aftermath of conflict, humanity emerged not as conquerors, but as guardians of a brighter, more united galaxy, a legacy that would endure for millennia.